All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Elisa Bartash, a product marketing manager here at TextExpander, and today I'm joined by TextExpander's CEO J.D. Mullin. Today's webinar is all about TextExpander and AI, and J.D. has a ton of exciting content to share with us today, so let's jump right in.
Hello, everyone. If you're here with us today, I hope that means you're as excited as I am to talk about the next generation of TextExpander. Our passion at TextExpander has always been clear: to make humans more efficient. The human aspect of that passion, I think, is worth drilling into a little bit as we get started. We're excited to show you where we're headed today, but I want to be clear that we are not building technology to replace you or to take your voice away, but actually the exact opposite: to empower you to do your best work, but just more efficiently. The text expander you know today creates efficiency right inside of your workflow. We'll let you insert accurate and improved content without navigating to another program to copy and paste from templates or from your knowledge base or wherever else you might have content stored. Not only does it work in any app, but it allows you to retain your voice and style while still maintaining consistency. Now we're taking that passion just a step further. Text Expander already gives you time back, but now AI amplifies that while keeping you in control. So before I get to that, though, let's talk a little bit about where AI is today. We've all seen the incredible power of AI, but I think we've all also experienced some of its limitations. It's a powerful tool, but it comes with two considerable inefficiencies. The first is friction. Standalone AI tools pull you out of your workflow. You have to leave what you're doing, open another browser tab or program, type your prompt, wait for a response, copy and paste content, and then go back to where you started. That's a lot of friction from context switching, and it interrupts your workflow and it impacts your productivity. Maybe it's just me, but I imagine some of you have found yourself on the journey that you switched tasks, you come up for air after a little bit of a rabbit chase, and you wonder what the heck was I doing when I started this journey. And so that's number one. The second is inconsistency. With AI generated content, sometimes the results are fantastic, but other times they miss the mark. And the tone might not match yours. It might be sourcing incorrect or outdated info, or portions of the output might not really be correct at all. I think at this point, we've all experienced AI hallucinating, only to have it exclaim, "You're absolutely right," when you reprompt it. And often a second or third attempt might yield completely different results. So even when you've been really, really clear in your prompts or in the context you've given, the negative impact of this inconsistency really even compounds when you share with peers and your intents for them to get the same great results you received, only to find out they get something different. So, AI products really require a different approach than traditional software. Since these models can't be perfectly predictable, there's a balance required in how much freedom you give it to help you versus how much control to maintain. And what a great place for TextExpander to step in. Consistency and control where you want it, but flexibility to utilize generative AI when it makes sense. So we asked ourselves, how can we give you the power of AI without the friction and the inconsistency? To answer that question, let's take a look at TextExpander AI and how it works, starting with this retrieval motion. So as you'll see in a little while, in a keystroke, you can now pull up TextExpander AI, which will use the content around your cursor to retrieve the right snippet from your library. So no prompting required, no memorization of abbreviations, and no previous understanding of the entire snippet library. This means you can spend less time searching for the right snippet and always use the best content. This solves that issue I mentioned of inconsistency because we use AI to understand the intent of the context around your cursor and retrieve the curated content that's already in your snippet library. So if you have snippets you trust, AI doesn't replace them, but it does help you find and expand them more easily. And imagine the perfect snippet for the situation just showing up automatically. When working with a team, this can be incredibly powerful. The right snippet for the job can be found whether the user knew it existed or not. So no need to remember or know the abbreviation ahead of time. And I'll touch on this a little bit later, but because TextExpander runs locally on your desktop or your laptop, your data never leaves your machine. Okay, that works well when the snippet already exists, but we all know that won't always be the case. No worries. TextExpander helps in those situations as well. So in the case where you don't have the snippet you need, we leverage AI to create a new snippet for your approval. It even creates prompts and suggestions for prompts before you get started. So this ensures that you always have the content you need on demand. And then once you have the right content, whether it's retrieved from your library or it's newly created in the moment, you can use your approved snippets in seconds, anywhere you type, making your workflow seamless. This is our answer to that friction obstacle. We're putting AI right where you work. And in the same way that TextExpander works in your email, chat, EHR, your ticketing software, or wherever else you type, our AI-powered features are going to work there too. So no back and forth, copy and pasting required, and no getting distracted. There was a Harvard Business Review study that highlighted that over the course of an average day, a single employee would toggle between apps and windows somewhere on the order of 3,600 times. That's a lot. And how many times does that result in distraction that takes you away from the task at hand? So this kind of toggling is often dismissed as simply how we work, but we don't think it has to be that way. So this is why we're using the content around the cursor to try and help you where you already are. So beyond just finding and creating snippets, TextExpander is going to intelligently augment your snippet library over time so you can create an even more effective library. And if you use TextExpander with your team, I'm excited to share that we'll be launching a new workflow to suggest and approve snippets. So as users are generating new content, they'll be able to feed these suggestions back into the snippet library with a streamlined approval and comment process. This will guarantee accuracy and consistency while keeping humans in the loop. So it's a great opportunity to leverage generative AI to build up your library, but still have some control and feedback and consistency built into that workflow. With this complete cycle, AI makes your snippet library instantly available, but also helps you keep it up to date and continually improve on it. Before I jump into my quick demo, I want to share a few core principles that guide how we're building with AI. So we know AI can be powerful, but it's also important to apply it thoughtfully and in a way that supports your work and keeps your data safe. So these principles are at the foundation of what we're building. Number one, first one is just prioritizing your content. So your snippet library is your knowledge base, and if you're part of a team, it's your team's collective knowledge. We're making your existing and approved content the priority. And we do this through the UI, and we're going to do this through a number of different methods. If you're an individual and you're managing your own snippet library, this makes your personal knowledge more accessible and helps you find the snippets you worked so hard to create already. For teams, we're helping ensure everyone stays consistent by using approved, curated content that's already in your library. And so we're prioritizing this content before we lean in on generative AI. Second up is human in the loop. AI is a creative co-pilot in our minds, but we believe humans must always take the lead. So every AI generated suggestion is fully editable and reviewable before it's used or before it's added to your library. And we understand that for many of you, maintaining accuracy, compliance, and voice across teams and customer conversations is incredibly critical. The third one is trust and security. Non-negotiable. In fact, I should probably mention these aren't in any sort of prioritized order. There are just three of them. You could absolutely argue this is number one. We're using local AI technology for snippet retrieval, which is something unique that we can do with our clients. And so if you're only using AI to help find existing snippets in your library, all information stays local to your computer. You have full control over AI functionality in TextExpander with the ability to enable and disable it based on your preferences. And we're committed to make sure you have a clear understanding of how these features work before you decide if you want to use them. And we are not using your data to train any models. And has always been the case, TextExpander never stores or transmits keystrokes anywhere. So your data is your data, full stop. So to sum it up, building on the efficiency of TextExpander that you already know and that we all love, and then we're doing it in a way that keeps you in control. All right, let's get into what you probably all have been waiting for. Get this guy to quit babbling. And what does this actually look like in action? So I'm going to show you two powerful new features. The first is the context-aware content retrieval, search, and the second is the human-in-the-loop content creation. So for this example, we're going to assume I'm a patient care coordinator that needs to respond to a patient. And I have the patient's message here. And you know your team has a snippet for this, but you're not sure what snippet to use. So maybe you're new and you don't know what snippets are in your library whatsoever, for example. And so we've always had inline search inside of TextExpander. Me get this in the right place. We can still see the content. We've always had inline search. You can open it up, type in a word or phrase, and find existing content in your library that matches. But TextExpander AI takes it a step further and will search your library based on the context around the cursor. And it'll suggest snippets to use without you having to manually search or prompt the AI. And you'll notice AI sourced quite a bit of content here right out of the gate. It found some existing snippets with content related to the patient's question without me having to search or prompt. You'll also notice the patient request didn't explicitly articulate that this was a referral request, but TextExpander inferred this from the content and found these referral snippets, which are the top two hits here. And so I can hover over and kind of see the content and see what the core messaging is in this snippet. And then I simply click on the one that I want to use, and it's inserted instantly, and I can send my response. So I think this was to Maria. So this alone is incredibly powerful. And not most of us can really only remember a handful of shortcuts. Now we can just pop open TextExpander and find content that's approved by your organization or content you personally okayed in your individual library. And the fact that it's not a direct keyword search, it's using the intent and the context around the cursor is twice as powerful. And if you're new to a role, this is awesome because you aren't familiar with existing snippets and you don't know what you're looking for yet. And I'm sure many of you have forgotten you have a snippet for a situation and would love to recall it without having to think. So pretty cool functionality just from the context-aware search kind of concept. Now let's shift to content creation. So let's say the right snippet to answer the question doesn't exist yet. And this is where the power of generative AI truly shines. You'll notice that when I open TextExpander, down in the bottom section here, a few prompts are automatically provided in the Create Snippet section. And these are relevant prompts because we use the content around the cursor again to help build these. And so let's go ahead and pick one of these. Let's say, how do I proceed with scheduling an initial consultation? Seems pretty spot on. Um, and so now there's a critical, we can get a first draft here. So we picked this one, and now I have an AI generated snippet. It's a first draft and really a powerful starting point. It's a bit bigger. There's a critical and cool step coming up. So AI creates the snippet, but you as the human get to edit the snippet, expand it, and then choose how and if you want to use it in the future. So there's a few ways you can adjust the snippet. You can use the pre-existing options like shorter, longer, more professional, etc. But you can also change it by just reprompting and asking for a specific change or giving it different instructions. So let's say add an apology and be more empathetic. And give it a second here. And as you can see, the first paragraph then got modified. So same content as before, but we have understanding your eagerness, apologizing for the delay. So we've added an apology and tried to be more empathetic. So that's pretty cool. You can also, as you imagine, just edit inside here. So I can just change some formatting. But what else is really cool is I can use existing snippets inside here. So I have, for example, a random closing that I use. So rand.close is a snippet. And so now I have that expanded. I have a signature, so I don't have to type my name. So you can use snippets inside of the editor, which is pretty cool to augment, can keep your voice. Often you'll have certain things you want to use, and so you still have the power to add a couple of items here and then expand and use a snippet. So one thing I want to mention before I expand this snippet is there's also an option down here to save for later. So this will add the snippet to your existing library. This is a great way to build out your library, especially if you're newer to TextExpander or you don't have a robust library yet. So you can generate new content with generative AI and then save it back to your library for automatic retrieval in the future. And so if you're using TextExpander as part of an organization, as I mentioned earlier, we're introducing a new request feature. So team members in this situation will be able to submit new snippets like this one and ask that they be reviewed and added to the organization's library. With that workflow, I'm pretty excited about this one. Curators can now review and approve new snippet content before it's added to your library and shared with others. So keep that human in the loop approach while also helping build and improve your organization's shared library. And this review process helps protect your brand voice, ensure content accuracy, which are two really big concerns for teams using AI. So I'm going to not do that for this go around and just expand. And so now I have my content. So in this world, you get the power of generative AI combined with the consistency and a new review process. All right, then, what then does this actually mean for you? It means more efficiency. It means less jumping between apps. And it means having a creative co-pilot that works right where you do. In addition, you get consistency because every member of your team is using approved, accurate information. You get faster onboarding of new team members because the knowledge that they need is surfaced automatically. And you get smarter snippet library that's easier to access, easier to build on, and much easier to keep up to date than we've ever had before. And so, for everyone out there who's looking for even the next level of productivity, this is just the beginning. Our goal is to empower you to easily create more advanced snippets, like snippets with fill-ins. And imagine AI suggesting a snippet with all the right fill-ins already in place, using the tone and style of your existing content. A lot of things we can do here. And these first couple of editions are really just the beginning. So as I mentioned when we got started, TextExpander's always been about human efficiency, but now we're giving you the tools to do more, do it faster, and with full confidence in the results. So we're going to put AI right in your workflow, but keep you in control. And that's how we're empowering humans with AI. I will kick it back to you, Lisa.
So today you saw how TextExpander is putting AI to work for you. And if you're interested in getting early access to the capabilities that we're ready for you to start testing out, you can sign up for our AI waitlist. So go ahead, if you're interested, fill out the form in that link and our team will be in touch with you soon. So with that, that brings us to time for Q&A. Thank you to everyone who sent in all of your great questions in the chat throughout the presentation. Like I said, if we don't get to all the questions, because there were quite a number of them, we'll be answering questions in the TextExpander community after the webinar. So JD, the first question that we have for you is, do I have to learn new commands or prompts to use this?
No, unless the inline search is a new command to you, which unfortunately I think it's the best kept secret in TextExpander. Sometimes it feels like. So this uses the existing inline search functionality. So in Mac, that would be command forward slash. Windows, it's control forward slash. And in the Chrome extension, it's control period.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And the next question is, can TextExpander AI handle snippets and suggestions in languages other than English? I saw a few people in the chat saying that they're in the Netherlands, so Dutch is their language. Does this work in other languages?
Yeah, the preview is English only because we used an English only model, but it's relatively straightforward and we'll be adding languages in the future. So this first version, just English.
Okay, perfect. And there were a couple questions asking about the LLM model that this is using. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's probably a couple different angles of this, and I don't want to drag us too far into the weeds. But we have a local model that we're using to basically keep that security standpoint and keep everything on the client. And that can be dynamic based on what's available to us. Out of the gate, the product uses a combination of transformers, which are not LLMs, so some transformer technology, and then Google Nano is what we're using inside of Chrome. So that's for what we do locally. And then if you click one of those prompts, when I clicked into generative mode, right now that's using Gemini on the back end, which we host and consume on behalf of the clients. But we also are experimenting with a plugin model to where people can bring their own model. So if you've built something on your own and that's interesting, please join the community and talk to us about that. So we built some prototypes of that. And so the model can be replaced and is fairly replaceable. Part of our decisions on that are going to be based on feedback we get from folks.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And we had a question come in. This person is a little confused about the right snippet from context because sometimes you might want a specific email in standardized form, and your snippet could be a contracting email, a personal email, an email, related to your kid and their school. So can you talk a little bit about how that context is going to be clear to the AI and so that you get the appropriate snippet suggestions?
Yeah, there's a little bit of, so the example I gave, I didn't highlight any of the text. And so the nice thing is part of this is just some of the magic of using embeddings and using AI to understand the intent. So we don't have to have the exact keywords and you will find good responses in the library. The nice thing is you can also target pieces of the screen content. So if you select, I didn't demo this, but if you select a particular part of text, that's all that will be used when searching the library. So still doing an intent-based search. It doesn't have to be exact keywords, but this is another way to help focus on, I want you to use this context when you're searching the library to find things. And then the other nice thing is that because it pops up inside of inline search, if it doesn't find the right thing, you can still type a few keystrokes and do an old keyword search to find those existing snippets that you already know exist.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation. Another question that came in is this only for the web or will it be available on the desktop apps?
Yeah. The web at first, but desktop is in the works, and so desktops would be a fast follow. We really want to get it into people's hands right away, however, and so that's a little more straightforward to do in our Chrome extension. You can install both at the same time, just as an FYI, so you can have them both running at the same time. But absolutely, will come to the desktop apps for sure.
All right, and we have a couple questions. Can the AI functionality be toggled on or off entirely? Depending on your situation, you may want it sometimes, but not always. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, the preview that we're inviting everyone to start using right now, it will always be on, but absolutely in the general release, you will have full control on whether it's used or not. And I saw another in the chat, I think there was a question around, can it be for specific snippet groups or not? That's a great suggestion. I don't think we'd contemplated that yet, but absolutely hop in the community and give us some of your feedback about why you would like that approach, because I think that's a really interesting request as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a couple questions come in with people asking, has this been released yet? What's the status of it? What are we looking at in terms of implementation?
Yeah, so right now it's a handful of 40 or 50 awesome testers have helped us get this far. And so we're now ready to open a wait list and get a few more people on that. So right now we're asking everyone to join a wait list and then we'll kind of onboard folks and get feedback. And so kind of ramping up to a general release, but we also want to make sure it hits the mark. And there's a lot of feedback that we would love to get from people. So openly inviting people to be design partners with us and use it and find out what works and what doesn't and kind of help us refine it. So very, very close on the horizon. And this is kind of our next phase of getting more and more folks using it.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned this a little bit when you talked about, highlighting text versus not highlighting text. But can you talk a little bit more? There were a couple questions that came in around the same theme of when you say around your cursor, how close to the cursor are you talking?
Yeah, we're refining that right now because it can actually depend on what apps you're in. So we are working to use proximity to the cursor because as you can imagine, there are some apps where the further out you go, there's a lot of context that's really not relevant and can actually be confusing and help you not get good results. And so it's non-deterministic right now. We have the power to, in certain apps, optimize that for apps that we know people spend a lot of time in, then we can get even a little more targeted with what we look at. But the cool thing is, I mentioned this in the earlier, this context is still staying local to the machine. That's one of the powers of TextExpander being a desktop client is we're basically reading this, but we don't really use it for anything except to create an embedding or a vector to be able to search and then go do the search. So right now that is TBD. Like we're basically experimenting to find out what gives us the best results.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think this question might be related to when you were mentioning the new requests feature that we are working on that'll be rolling out soon. But the question is, if I create a snippet group, will other users within my text expander organization, will their AI created or AI generated suggestions for snippets, will those approvals go to me? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different lenses to look at this through. The example I did when I said save this snippet, that put it in my personal library, and that's the extent of it right now. What we're also launching very, very soon, in fact, as early as next month, is this request and approval flow, which is not specific to AI. This is just an ability for people to make snippet suggestions and have a commenting section and have admins or approvers kind of look at that and decide if something should go in the library or not. In the future, we have the opportunity to take some of these AI generated snippets and feed those in to that same approval process so that humans can look at it and go, oh, this is fantastic. I do want everybody to start seeing this. That functionality is coming. The functionality I demoed is literally just putting it in my own library. So for that to be shared would require me to do the same thing I do today, which is go grab that snippet and move it to a shared group or to explicitly share it with my team. So right now, nothing automatically gets shared with peers. It would take a human interaction to do that.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that explanation there.
Also, behind every one of these questions, I'm resisting the urge to ask four more discovery questions. Would love people to join the preview so you can ask those questions if we really hammer out like what do you want to see? What would be beneficial to you?
Yes, absolutely. So please join that AI waitlist. The link is in the chat. And with that, we are actually at time. There were so many great questions. Thank you, everyone who participated in the poll, who was here with us today, and who asked so many great questions. Like I said, any questions we didn't get to live on the call today, we will answer in the community. We'll also be posting the recording there, and you'll also receive it via email. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you soon.